Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Grandstand Sports Data. Week 5 is in the books, and now it's time to roll into Week 6. We've got some fresh model projections, proven systems, and bankroll strategies lined up to help you spot that value. So, whether you're a new bettor trying to learn the ropes or a seasoned sharp looking for an extra edge, this is where we put the numbers to work for you. Let's break down Week 6 and see where that money is hiding. All right, so this is where we break down the benchmark model results in the long term. And by the long term, we mean the last 5 years. The spread is not necessarily profitable. As you can see, it's gone 469 and 499. And that's over the last 5 years, just like we mentioned. Moneyline is 638 and 396. That comes out to a win percentage of about 61.7. So when you turn that into break even odds, that turns into minus 161. So what does that mean? In order to spot value, you need a benchmark model to pick a team to win, and then they have to be minus 161 odds or better, and that will sit you in that plus EV category, and that's because of the last 5 years. You want enough sample size, and this has over 1,000 games played, and it shows you that over that long run, it's hit on money lines at 61.7%. So that's where that comes from. The totals now have been profitable over the last 5 years. You can see 531 wins, 454 losses. That is great in terms of your totals. It's up 27 units over the 5 years and almost close to 3% for your portfolio. We always mention that we could leave a slide for totals. If you guys want us to do that, just leave a comment down below in the comment section. All right, so here are the teams that actually qualified under the benchmark model money line parameters going into week 6. Remember that cutoff is set at minus 161, just like we spoke on in the last slide. You can see those teams are going to be Tampa at minus 155. You have the Seattle Seahawks at plus 105, and then you have Detroit at plus 120. So a few dogs there, and then Tampa. Those fulfill the minus 161 and are picked to win by a benchmark model. All right, so let's stick to some of the money line themes here, and we're going to move on to some of the systems that work out. We're going to start with the top row. That's going to be favorites on a high total plus the 620-mile rule. As long as they fit the minus 280 parameters, they will satisfy as a bet. Over the last 2 years, you got to remember these are the last 2 years because we track them here on Grandstand Sports Data. I don't take my personal data and bring it onto the channel. We track things as we go on. That way, nobody has to ask for records. Nobody has to do any of that shit. All you got to do is look at past videos. You will see everything. So as you can see, favorites on a high total and that 620-mile rule. Teams that are satisfying that are going to be the Bucks, Jags, Chiefs, and the Commanders. And that is for favorites on a high total plus that 620-mile rule. Now, we want to sprinkle in a little bit of coaching in that as well. That has gone 22 and 5 in the last 2 years. That type of system. You're looking for minus 440 odds or better, and the teams that satisfy that are going to be the Colts, Chiefs, and Commanders. So you kind of seeing a theme here when it comes to the Chiefs and Commanders. The money line systems are liking them. Now, if we want to do favorites on a high total and then mix in the coaching, Grandstand Sports Data coaching model, so we're taking out the 620-mile rule, that has gone 67 and 27 over the last 2 years. Teams fulfilling that is going to be Dallas, the Pats, the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Commanders, all having the favorites on a high total with the coaching advantage according to Grandstand Sports Data's coaching model. Now we're going to combine just a crap load of factors here. I'm going to add in Madden that we haven't touched on, and that's the Madden rating, and it's basically to measure player quality. Well, that's gone 14 and 2 over the last 2 years. Couple games here fulfilling that type of system. It's going to be the Colts, Chiefs, and Commanders, all three of them coming up. I actually put this in as of as of Thursday while the game was going on, but we wanted to drop the video on Friday. We didn't necessarily pick the Giants to win, but I left it here because I just think that it's that we already know that the Giants won. We're dropping the video on a Friday night, but I think it's pretty cool to see that there was actually a system that picked them to win on even on the money line to beat Philadelphia on the money line, and that would be blowout dogs. So any dog that is a underdog that's coming off of a 10-point or more loss, and they're also playing a divisional game, and they happen to be the underdog, of course. Well, New York satisfied that. It only went 12 and 25, but because you're betting underdogs, those 12 games that you won actually got you profitable. That's how big underdogs they were. The Giants actually won last night, so that is a pretty key system here. Now we're going to move to the spread side of things. You're going to see some of the best performers here. We have the dogs on a low total. So this is the opposite of favorites on a high total. If it's a low total game, 45 points or less, and it's an underdog, we think that they'll cover the spread a little bit more, and that's what that is signifying. And then also blowout dogs and divisional dogs we just touched on the last slide. Well, the Giants, they would pick to cover the spread. They actually won the game, so they did cover the spread, but as you can see, it's been a pretty solid system over the last 2 years. Favorites on a high total mixed with 620-mile rule. Well, some of the teams that touch on that are going to be the Colts, Bucks, Jags, Chiefs, and Commanders. Very similar to the teams that we had on the money line, but remember, this is the spread plays. Now we have another one for the Giants with that blowout dog and divisional dog. We just touched on that in the last slide, but now we're switching it in spread form. We've already got that one. 620-mile rule plus a contrarian here. So any team that's got less than 30% of the bets and their opponent is traveling 620 miles through the air. The Jaguars and Chiefs satisfy that system. That's gone 16 and 12 over the last 2 years. Now we're doing just 620-mile rule mixed with coaching. It's been, a pretty good sample size, but the sample size is getting a little bit better. As you can see, almost 78 games, or is 78 games. It will be about 82 after this week. As you can see, the Colts, Raiders, Chiefs, and Commanders satisfying that system. Now here's a look at the market variables that we're tracking. And first off, it's going to be the contrarian numbers are built from this year and last year. So the last 2 years. While the bet percentage and money percentage are only based on this season. So I just want you to kind of get your head around that. We weren't tracking it last year. So, and just like I said, everything that we track, I want documented here. That way, when people ask for records, they could just come to the channel. Well, speaking of that, let's go to the top row. We're going to talk about the contrarian side. And before we get into it, the top row is going to signify spread performance, and then the bottom row for each of the rows is going to be money line performance. So top row spread, bottom money line for each of these categories. The first category we're going to talk about is contrarians, and this means that we're fading the public. This is going against the side most bettors are on, and that's historically been profitable approach. But the last 2 years, it's only done well on the spread side. You can see here. Jacksonville and Kansas City fit the bill this week going into week 6. And those teams you want to keep an eye on, especially on the spread if it's been profitable over the last 2 years. Now, let's move on to bet percentage. And this is simply tracking the number of tickets. So which team got more bets, the more percentage of bets. That's what this is coming down to. A lot of people will say that this is the public side because it's the number of tickets. And we know that the public loses a lot. So this is the way you want to stay away from, I guess. So these are the teams that I'm not going to list them all off. It's basically one team from each game on the slate this week, and you can see who's on the public right there in that column. Moving on to money percentage now, this tells us where the actual dollars are going. So some sharp bettors will say that this is the sharp side. It's not always because there can be some public and, it can mix and match. Either way, and then there's also other variables as well. We're going to be dropping a how to read the market video coming soon. I want to say after our NFL sports betting guide. So make sure to, stick around, subscribe, do what you have to do to not miss those videos because those are going to be crucial when you're betting on the NFL. So picking up where we left off, this is extremely profitable on the money line, as you can see bottom here. It's gone 45 and 30 just this year, and it's up $7.04 for every $1 bet. And these are the teams that it has picked. And when I say it, I'm talking about the money percentage. Which team gets favored by the money percentage? Now, let's move down to the sharp side. And the sharp side is basically those teams that have the sharp money and the money percentage, but don't have the public. And that's a good thing, right? Because in the long run, you want to be a contrarian, and that's what wins. And you don't want to be on the public side because in the long run, that's what loses. So those teams, they basically are not being picked in bet percentage, but are being picked up on the sharper side of money percentage. Those teams are going to be Denver, the Rams, the Chargers, the Panthers, the Raiders, and the Commanders. And those are the teams that you want to be watching this week because, as you can see, they've been profitable on both the spread and the money line. And it's still early. It could be more profitable. Remember, it could be a year, I want to say either last year or the year before, it's escaping my memory, where the public actually came out on top one of the seasons. So remember, the market's always up, it's always down, but if you have an edge, place that bet. That's simple. All right, so disclaimer up front, right? This card is for educational purposes only. We built it together step by step using the systems, the benchmark model, and then filters to highlight where the value exists. I'm not telling you who to bet. I'm showing you how to spot value, those overlaps that we see throughout all the systems, and then you put yourself in the best position to win. So let's start with the spread picks. We have the first one at Denver at minus 7.5. This is sharp side support, and that's about it though, and the reason for the one percenter. And that will be a recurring theme for all the 1% plays that you see here. We may only have sharp side support, and that's it, but that's enough for us to place the bet, at least in my eyes. Some people who are more sniper on that side, they only play like 2 or 3 plays, they may not go for that. But if you could see just a little bit of an edge, some people will play that, and they're more volume betters. I think I'm more of a hybrid in the middle. Next is going to be the Los Angeles Rams at minus 7.5. They have the spread support for the benchmark model, they have the spread systems, and they have the market pointing sharp side money towards them. So it can pass as a 4%er here, but I kept it at about 3 just because of, we have a pretty decent number of picks on the spread side this week. Now, moving on to the Chargers at minus 4.5. This is sharp side support only. It's just like the Broncos, they only fit the sharp side bill. Same thing here for the Carolina Panthers at plus 3.5. Then if we move on to the Las Vegas Raiders at minus 4.5, they have that sharp money on their side along with some of the spread systems. But if you're feeling horned up, you can really beef this up to a 2% play if you really think that the Raiders will cover the spread at that minus 4.5. I will say that we got these odds as of Wednesday night, so just to keep in mind, Wednesday night they could have changed. So that's another disclaimer. Sorry, I should have really opened with that. Washington will be the next one at minus 4.5. They had sharp money, spread system edge, and they basically have edges on both the money line and the spread. But the price on money line is kind of telling you that the better play here is going to be the spread side. I'd go spread side Washington. I would even say you could even make that a 4% play. If you have room in the budget, remember you want to stick to that 15% ceiling. You never want to bet more than 15% of your bankroll on 1 week. Please remember that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, who's better to grab on the money line here? It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. We had them at minus 2.5. Tons of spread support for Kansas City here. And then there was money line support for Detroit. Some of you may ask, well, what the hell? Why would I go if there's tons of, money line support on Detroit? Why would I pick Kansas City? Why are they better on the money line? Well, I think because when you add up everything with the small edges and the small edges, the numbers are really being contradictory to themselves. Everything's lined up for Detroit on the money line. Everything's adding up for Kansas City on the spread, but that doesn't make any sense. If Kansas City covers the spread, they win the game. So I think it's a very, very small play, and it's over in the money line section. 1%er. Next will be New England now. Tons of money line support, benchmark model support, money line system support, and then finally the money percentage is siding with New England also. So it's a small money line play. Why do people call it a small money line play instead of maybe a 3% or a 4%er if it's checking all the boxes? Well, I'm a little bit nervous because they had such a game last week. Some people may consider this almost like a sandwich spot, but in the opposite direction. So they played a weak team, a really good team, and now they're playing another weak team, and they may come back to earth, and that's what we're scared of. So that's why we'd only cap it at about a 2% play. So that's how the spreads and the money line stack up when you separate them out. Remember, you can mix and match all you want, but I need you to remember no one play over 5% and no whole slate over 15%, and you'll be good as gold. All right, so that's going to wrap up the NFL Week 6 betting preview. Remember, this isn't about telling you who to bet, it's about walking through the systems, walking through the numbers, and then using that bankroll discipline to put you in the best position to win. So if you got value out of this breakdown, do us a favor. Subscribe so you don't miss our Week 6 recap and then our Week 7 preview. Like the video, it really helps push out to more bettors that are like you. And then drop a comment below. Let us know which systems you're tracking, or if there's a matchup that you want us to spotlight next week. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.